Okay, which utilities can be audited? We look at electricity, gas, water, and sewer. And under telecom, we look at local lines, long-distance lines, data and internet lines, and also cell phones. And as I mentioned earlier, again, I don't like to guarantee anything, but I can't remember ever doing an audit on cell phones that we didn't find something. Okay, next question. How are recommended changes implemented? Well, let me give a little explanation of the process and how it occurs here. When the auditors begin to find issues, they will email the contact at the client company and give a full description of what they found and what the recommendations are, what changes they're recommending. Attached to that email will be a letter of authorization that the client will copy to their letterhead, sign, and return to us. And that letter is specific to those particular issues that we're recommending be changed. So we don't just return a copy of the bill to the client with certain issues circled and say, here, go make the changes. We do that on behalf of the client. We have a very good relationship with utilities and telecom companies. So we work with them all the time and get those changes implemented. The next question, what is the risk? From a financial standpoint, there really is just zero risk. We don't charge any upfront fees. We don't charge any retainers. Our fee is a percentage of the savings that we find. So in those cases where we do not find anything, there is no fee, and it's simply a free verification that a client's bills are as efficient and as cost-effective as they can be. We listed another type of risk on here simply because if we say there's zero risk, someone's going to say, well, that sounds too good to be true. So theoretically, there's a disrupted service risk. I've never seen this happen, but I guess it's possible that if someone has a gas line and they're operating, say, a boiler that's used only certain months of the year, and we look at it and we'll say, well, there's been no activity on this particular gas line for 6 months or 8 months. And in that case, we would recommend to the client that they disconnect that line. However, the safeguard, the first safeguard there is that the client has to approve that change. So we're going to ask them, is there going to be any usage on this? And they'll check on that and they'll be able to tell us. In the event, which again I've never seen this happen, that it's disconnected, it can always be reconnected. So there's a very inexpensive reconnect line or reconnect fee on most lines. So just very, very minimal risk. And what is the cost? Very simple. Our fee is a percentage of the money that we save for our clients. What is the cost to delay? Well, it's twofold. Talked a little bit previously about refunds, and since the statute of limitations on refunds on utilities is 36 months, if, for example, a client has an issue on their bill from 35 or 36 months ago, and they wait 90 days to initiate this process, that refund is gone. They'll never see it. The other part of it is if we find a savings on the monthly bill and they wait 30 days or 60 days, then during that period, you've foregone those savings. And in fact, I have a client, will go unnamed, that we delivered their final report to them and asked them to sign the letters of authorization, and due to workloads and changes going on within the organization, it took them 4 months. And they actually gave up several $1,000s because they were not prompt in initiating this. So there is a cost to put this off. And the next question, can your company do this itself in-house? Well, typically what we hear from our clients when I ask them, are they reviewing their bills, is yes, they're reviewing them, but they're reviewing them for consistency. They're looking for spikes in the bill. And in fact, I used to do this myself. I was in a banking position where I had budget and finance responsibility, and when the bill would come in, particularly the telecom bill, it's several hundred pages long. Nobody can understand it, so you go to the last page and you look at the total. You compare that total to what's my monthly budget. You compare that to what have I been paying over the last 3 to 6 months, and if it's in that range, you assume that it's correct. The problem with making that assumption is the utilities write all the tariffs, the telecoms write the USOC codes. They're all written in industry language. So unless you have specific industry experience in those codes and in those tariffs, it's pretty much impossible to decode your bills. The other issue is most companies have really downsized their staffs and just don't have the time to do anything like this. And there's always the risk that if you take the time, you put in the man hours, that you'll find little or nothing. So this is one of those services where it's just really good to outsource it. And that's pretty much what we have for you today. Now it's time to turn it back over to Jay and open it up for questions.
Yes, thanks, Mark. That was interesting. Folks, if you have any questions for Mark, now's the time to post them. Remember that if your question does not get answered during today's broadcast, you can email it to Mark. Mark, you might progress to the next slide and display that information. You can post that question in the floating dialog box at right, the webinar screen. Inside it has a questions area where you can post questions. I'm taking those questions now. Mark, one of the questions that's come up is how long does it take from the time someone signs on to your services until they might begin enjoying the savings?
Well, like a lot of questions, Jay, that answer is it depends. Typically somewhere around 6 to 8 weeks, but it really depends on the complexity. I have a client that has 65 different locations, and obviously in a case like that, we're looking at hundreds of utility and telecom accounts, so that's going to take longer than that 6 to 8 week period. Most mid-sized businesses, it is within the 6 to 8 week range.
Okay. Mark, that is all the questions I have right now. Everyone, thank you for joining us. We want to know what you think as well. Please fill out the survey that will appear after the broadcast. It's very short. And if you have more questions, Mark's contact information is on the screen. You can send him an email. We will post these slides as well as the presentation next week if you should want to refer back to them for more information. Thanks again, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. Goodbye.